Hey Purpose-Built Families, I'm going through every one of the 3 videos that you have on your YouTube channel. The first one is not very pleasing. It's about 10 to 15 minutes long. It is called the Pairs Essentials Toolkit. And I'm just going to be telling you straight up front what my issues are with it, because all of the tools on this video, they seem to be really damn vague. They not very helpful, especially when relationships become very convoluted with repressed subconscious emotional problems, and that's not me using really fancy terms and blogging my sentences with fancy terms by saying repressed subconscious. When I say repressed subconscious, I mean that if there has been a lot of miscommunication, assumptions made over time that have caused a lot of pain, then the people in the relationship are probably going to press down a lot of pain so that their subconscious stores it somewhere in their body, and because it's so painful they just refuse to bring it out and talk it out. And you don't want to, you just don't want to spend years having to go through therapy to have almost no results unless you have someone really good in psychology in order to have that stuff come out. I've been through the pain of acknowledging that, and turns out unless you want to go into a lucid dream, then really the only way to get those feelings out are one, via power poses, which I figured out, although hypnotism and hypnosis seems to be the other way out of that. So I've comprehended that at the end of this video, Pairs Essentials Tools Kit, you've basically given step by step what to do in a quite healthy relationship in order to basically maintain it. Although if the relationship, these are my thoughts for what would have to happen in a relationship that has more convoluted problems, when the people in it just can't talk openly, and also just eliminating some of the vagueness and being very pragmatic about a lot of the things in this, because my life situation feels like it forces me to be very, very pragmatic over what's actually happening. So we cut out assumptions, we basically cut out places that aren't very productive. Let's start. So the leveling posture. To me, this, like, I've just written down all of my interpretations on this. Unfortunately, a lot of them are in pencil, so I can't really read it. Let's just go through it. Leveling posture. So you feel like you need to reconnect to the person because the relationship has become quite distant. You want to make it closer, so you have to use David Snyder's open heart pose in order to force yourself, get it out of your evolutionary biology, to bring out the most open resources inside of you, to explain how you feel, what you feel, why you feel it in the most open way that you possibly can do, which is very significant to people who have been closed off for a very long time and don't feel like they can be open if they're using an introverted posture. If they feel as open as possible in the pose, the posture, the way of moving that I'm moving in right now, which was originally adopted, but which David Snyder got from the dating industry, that women use to explain things pretty much automatically. If men use it, they get the exact same result, turns out, and it's very, very useful, especially for situations like this, and just for explaining things in a very neutral and factual way. I use it quite a lot when I need to. So, leveling posture, you have to use the open heart pose in order to open yourself up to getting an explanation out of yourself which feels more close and which connects you better. When it's important, yeah, fully if you've been through a very stressful day, or you've been through a bash through the day, and you're not in the right state to do any of this, none of this will get accomplished, being quite generalized about it. You would have to use the open heart pose in order to reset your state in order to have this conversation. Like you would have to get into the emotional refractory period that Paul Ekman and David Snyder talk about. That David Snyder talks about Paul Ekman proving. You need to get into the emotional refractory period for openness for a person who doesn't feel like they have it in them to be open enough for a conversation in a damaged relationship. So before they would go through any of these steps in the essentials toolkit, they would have to get in just set aside 2 to 5 minutes to get into the refractory period, to go through the maintenance checklist. Otherwise, it's probably not gonna happen. Need to wind up this yo-yo now. Next. Invitation rule. Just inviting. This is one of the things that makes me skeptical about this stuff working. It's only the first video that I'm watching, although with advice being this generalized and like, duh. Invitation will just being a rephrase from something that is duh. It's like, invite your partner to talk. Yep, open heart pose, like, invite your partner to... Duh. Obvious. Daily temperature reading. Life's gotten a bit hectic, you have a busy work schedule, you want to maintain things for like 5, 10 or perhaps 30 minutes a day. You don't want a relationship to grow apart too much, so you just have to talk, and you put more focus on the relationship with your partner to talk about how things are going in the right state. Forgive the lighting conditions, by the way, it's night and I don't have the... If I was at the park for this, things would be different. Just don't have the equipment right now. Confiding a concern. Concern about another's reaction. This would also involve the open heart pose. Probably David Snyder's echoing, which I use unconsciously and habitually at this point. That was a good one. If there is a lot of relationship repression here, good luck. Good luck. You would only be able to do this if the relationship was really open, quite decent, or if you actually got out relationship repression through meta-model violations. So concern about another's action. You feel able to say, I have something wrong about what you just did, and if the relationship is of a good enough standard, you use the open heart pose to say explicitly, I don't like what you just did, this is why, and you would basically go through the conversation telling each other, like, I have really good I have the best intentions for you in this, and I just want to get to the best standard that that gives us better quality of life, both of us. And we're going to negotiate about what you just did to either end it or get to a better standard. A lot of this is just like, duh. Confining a concern. Empathic listening. Becoming emotional. Basically the same as the last one. Although, I think this one would involve a bit of a different state. The max you can go with this for empathy if you feel like you need to use a power pose to do it, is hug yourself. If you want to feel really empathetic, and this doesn't work for everyone, I've experienced, look upright. If you want to feel really bad, look in the down directions, and you'll quickly feel it. Although I think the open heart pose also comes with the same features, same feelings, just on a smaller level. Does Amy's poses also? I don't think Amy the Hedgehog gives the right poses for this, the right emotions for this. Amy, if you copy the poses that Amy the Hedgehog uses, then you're likely to feel the exact same way as Amy the Hedgehog, and therefore bring out the resources in you, the emotional resources in you that are loving and empathetic. Next. Talking tips for confiding. Upsetting. You get upset about a person's behaviour, review talking tips. There's no... Exactly what I said last time. Wanting to... Caring behaviours, wanting to care about, take care of you. Okay, here's something that I've spotted and it doesn't say. I found that we all have these activities inside of us, these optimal activities inside of us, that when you use them, you can basically get through. You can get through anything. You can use them to be very resourceful for what you go through in life. I've took this to a really advanced level. Although with an optimal relationship behavior, you can, like, when you're in a relationship with a person, there is going to be 3, 4, 5 perhaps different activities that you do with each other in order to maintain a relationship, and they're going to be useful for different things. That sounds obvious, although what's not obvious is that they're in your evolutionary biology, and you absolutely have to use them if you want to be healthy. If you do not use them, and you use something slightly different, you won't get the same effect. Behaviour with my mother for this is just sitting, hugging each other on the sofa, and talking. An activity with my father, which I'm going to be doing tomorrow, that we've just found out, is just being on a canoe with each other. I had a very good experience with that, and I didn't know it before unless I had life have me discover that it was one of these activities that just works to maintain a relationship and make it very quality. If I don't have it, I don't feel anything towards my father much, apart from all this anger and resentment. Like, that activity just also adds so much meaning to my life because it just works. I think that if you want to find these behaviours faster, you can either use the subconscious autofill from the power poses, which is something that I'm putting in my book, and also you can probably get your dreams to tell you. I've attempted it, although I just don't wake up fast enough in the morning to note dreams down in my dream journal, and also dreams just don't matter to me very much. The reason why is because the subconscious has direct access to your limbic system, which also it will know which it will know what your optimal behaviors are for interacting in relationships and maintaining relationships and just maintaining yourself. So you can probably use dream journaling and lucid dreams to directly ask your subconscious what those behaviors are, and you don't have to spend years of your time trying to find them. You can just do it in like, what, 3-4 days with a dream journal, if you get lucky in a lucid dream, if your subconscious really trusts you. Therefore, if you really trust yourself. Emptying emotional jug. Oh, that's a repeat of one of the last ones, like just being emotionally upset. Timeout tip. Attempting to resolve problems. Stop talking immediately. Stop all talking immediately and stay the amount of time. Resume talking to. Again, this would be way more likely in the emotional fracture period for the hybrid heart pose. If people are acting like toddlers, or they just don't have the level of intelligence and they're really just intoxicated, they won't be able to control themselves. So you'd either have to use an emotional refractory period, or it's like a person who isn't able to do this won't be able to have the self-control to stop talking about the problem, and after 5 minutes they won't, unless they have trained the habit of changing states immediately and unconsciously, as it became an unconscious habit. So they do it without realizing that so when they get into a certain state, they've made it habitual to switch states immediately to something that's perhaps more relaxed and that's smarter, and they can then ask for 5 minutes out. Although too many people just aren't able to have that self-awareness to ask for time out. Relationship agreement. Wanting to develop new habits for relationship, the three aspect of agreement you are together on. I've just written down this tip as something that I want to do with my mum, in finding the behaviors that work best for us to maintain our relationship with each other. And that's basic. Like agree with each other that you want to improve the relationship or do something different. Duh. Fair fight for change. Ask for them to change. If they don't, get yeeted. It's also knowing how to make a change, which is very simple. You can just look up Tony Robbins telling you the 3-step process to any change. Identify the change. Identify the reason. Identify the change that you want. Identify the emotions of both the change and what is currently happening, and re-trigger the current thing that happens that you don't like a couple of times, and it's just so that you can reset it to a different thing, to the thing that you want. Very simple. Although so much of the time this is much harder than that, just because the deeper reasons for why the behaviour is there are repressed in the subconscious, and you can't bring them out without NLP and hypnosis. Untangling glove. Oh, this one made me cringe. Because if the relationship isn't that quality, you would have to go. The components in this one are just so vague, and you'd need more tech. You need more emotional tech in order to make progress here. Feeling resentment towards your partner. Identify your underlying belief. If the relationship is quality, like if there's too much emotional baggage in a relationship, or basically your life overall, then that just avoiding the part that makes me go into talking about hypnosis, and just having to dig deep into the subconscious mind to get out an underlying belief. In order to be the most productive with this, if the thing that caused the resentment isn't obvious, like, oh, it just happened because someone said something really, really wrong, and that has to be fixed. Like, if someone came up to me on the street and said "fuck you," then that's an immediate reason just to go whew, and that's obvious. Like, it's duh, that thing just happened. Although if it's a pain that is way too difficult to acknowledge, you'd need the meta model violations in order to uncover a belief that's causing trouble in a relationship that you don't even realize is there. That's what the meta model violations are for. Frank Puslik, I know these are there because I memorized Frank Puslik's series called The Magic of Communication, which gives you the meta model violations directly. And I also believe that the book Modeling in NLP by Robert Dilts also gives you them, because it's in the modeling process. Then reflect on what is true for your partner rather than assumptions. The subconscious mind your mind is not designed to reflect on painful experiences. It is not, and it's not designed to find what's true, because your mind is irrational, it's emotional. So if you were to dig into what really caused an event via meta model violations, the subconscious would have produced at least some kind of perspective warping, emotional warping of what actually happened, unless it was so damn blatantly obvious what happened. So most of the time, 80% of the time, you would, like, the open heart pose would have to be used here, although that still could be very ineffective to determine what happened. Although just non-verbal patterns of expression could reveal what actually went on, because the subconscious and the body never lie in their expressions. Reflect on what is true for partner rather than assumptions. Again, meta-model violations would be the most accurate, although still you might not get accurate enough unless you really were skilled in reading what the body is really saying, because the body never lies, and the subconscious can very easily, really easily, convince the conscious mind of a complete lie just because it thinks you want to believe the lie. Clarify with partner with emphasis on what you each can do. So you've identified a belief which is false. You want to change the belief and what you want to do because of the belief, but because of the better belief that you have, and you want to choose a new activity because you now believe something better and that's something different. Like, don't say "fuck you" on the street. Making the really convoluted and complex simple. Again, parallelogram. Oh, this was. You should decide. Well, if there's a lot of repressed and convoluted meanings in a relationship, this would be very difficult to do, unless it were blatantly obvious that you're just more skilled and better. Like, oh, you're better at math, so take care of adding up the bills. Simple. Although, if there's a lot of repressed conflict, and just, yeah, if there's a lot of repressed conflict and meanings in the relationship, say, who's better at dealing with the person here? Like, who wants power over dealing with this really positive or this really negative person? That would be quite a difficult decision. Like, who's good enough to take charge? Oh, me. No, you can't take care of that because I'm better than you. No, I'm better than you because of this. That would really damn easily cause an argument. That would just go on forever. Identify emotional allergies. Intense. You feel intense, upsetting feelings. Reflect on why you're so upset. This is... If the person has neurosis about why they're upset, this would be virtually impossible. And you would need NLP. This is where transferring submodalities in NLP would be very useful, although you would have to get the person to you might have to get the person to comply, or you could do some covert stuff with this. No understanding of feelings and reactions. Confide with partner. Although if it's an emotional allergy, that means that there's something repressed, and some repressed emotions built up in the nervous system, built up in the subconscious mind, that are causing the person to have this immediate flare up of whatever it is. Like, just when a snowflake flares up about someone bringing a topic up. That would be virtually impossible to cover unless you knew how to reframe what is getting upset about. You wouldn't be able to do this without having training in NLP or hypnosis, because the conversation topic would be way too emotionally charged to do anything otherwise. That's why, unless it was really calmed down, or unless you're in the fracture period of the emotional heart pose, the open heart pose, you just couldn't do this. Like, identify emotional allergy. It's an allergy for a reason. The nervous system has been conditioned to have an intense emotional response to whatever it is. So unless you have advanced tech, it's not going to be very easy to change. Confide emotionally. Attempt to change and resolve what that allergy is. Same things. Unless you created a really loving environment where you could just have a person open up and take in a change and a feeling from another person, which would require skill to do. Not going to happen. Preventative maintenance. Focus on the relationship more. Yeah. I'm almost finished. Clarify thoughts and feelings and upsets. Focus on the relationship more. This is basically the same as the other ones. And finished. I'm going to be sending this to friends. Probably going to be posting. Probably going to be also expressing the summary of these feelings on Instagram, and I will post this video. I'll post this video through email, probably on YouTube, probably on Instagram too. See you.